everyone. Welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters with your questers, Josh and Dan. I am Dan.
And I am Josh.
And on today's podcast, we will be discussing all things Lindroosical. I'll explain that later. So if you have any questions for us, please contact us at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. And Josh, I've made Josh laugh out loud for the first time in like 270 episodes. So, yes. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the Blades adventure number 4, which is with an axe in hand. But before that, we're going to get to the Interlude, because we've done this so far for the last 3 of them, which is called With a Tale to Tell. And the Interlude, I know, is written by Lou, but the adventure is written by Nicole Lindroos, which we'll get to in a minute or so. We're going to give credit to where credit is due on all of this. But the Interlude is, with a tale to tell, you are searching for the rank 7 key knowledge. So by this point, the character should be 7th or 8th circle, maybe? Thoughts?
Yeah, somewhere in the upper journeyman tier.
Yeah. This is interspersed. This has interspersed tales of a corrupted Liferock in or near the Tylon Mountains. So if you are playing this campaign all the way through with no detours onto anything else you're doing, you will have had time to intersperse some tales of a corrupted Liferock somewhere around. If you are using this as like the creamy Oreo cookie filling between the hard shells of your other adventures and you're stringing this along in bits and pieces, by all means, lace the tales of a corrupted Liferock throughout your campaign. You'll hear it in a tavern somewhere from somebody else who's passing along on a side road, whatever. These tales speak of a horror that corrupted an obsidian and used that obsidian to corrupt the entire Liferock and the Brotherhood coming from that Liferock, or intertwined with that Liferock. So at the end of this interlude, they need to be able to find the wandering troubadour named Senog, who can help them find this Liferock. He's got directions to it or a description about it or where has been close to it, something along those lines. And maybe Senog might be near Kratos. Take your pick. Doesn't have to be there, but Kratos is close to the Tylon Mountains. Maybe he's near or not near. Your choice. Knock yourself out. But basically, this is a whole bunch of ROLE playing and a question and answer session with Senog, who is a 3rd circle troubadour. And he gives directions if you want to using Shantaya's sextant. Doesn't have to be, but there you are. Thoughts on the interlude, Josh? I've talked too long.
Yeah. The important part of this is that at this point in the campaign storyline, the player characters are well aware of the curse, of the history of the 7 spokes, the fact that one of their members was marked and corrupted by a horror, and that led to them betraying their group and ultimately leading to the downfall of both them and, by extension, eventually Carafod. Having in the previous adventure actually found out who that traitor was, and learning that knowledge, if not dealing with the dark fetch that remained in the aftermath. Having all of that framework and context of the curse and the story of the Blades up to that point, and also starting to see manifestations of the curse itself, their encounter with the Tamers in the Liage jungle, for example, where their very presence is sort of corrupting individuals near them and leading them to betray those that are closest to them. The story of the horror corrupting the Obsidian and using them to infiltrate and corrupt and betray the Liferock is something that should be noted as very similar to the story that they have thus far, and that's the part that should be attracting their attention and wanting to track this down, because the key knowledge, the piece of information that they need to learn is the name of the horror that did that. And thus far, there haven't been any real clues about it, but with the knowledge that there was a horror that at least did something very similar in terms of this operation to a Liferock, then that seems to be a good place to perhaps start trying to track down this information.
Yeah.
So that's the key sort of hook on this, is the similarity between the experience of the Blades and the story of the Blades thus far with the 7 spokes and the Liferock. the game master should really make that similarity obvious if the players don't pick up on it themselves.
Fair enough. So I like the interlude in that it's just, you've interlaced this idea. They finally pick up that thread, follow it to its logical conclusion, which means they need to go find Senog, who's got directions to where they need to go. And that's pretty much it. So it's a huge role-playing question and answer thing. So it's, again, just the character gets to stretch their legs, and the player gets to, inhabit that character for a little bit. Maybe they speak with an accent. Maybe they just have an attitude. Whatever the case may be, they get to actually be that character for a while without having to necessarily roll dice to solve things. It's, play your character. The game master gets to play the NPCs. It's a tete-a-tete.
Like all of the interludes, really, the purpose is to point the player characters in the direction of the next key knowledge or the next adventure that will reveal the key knowledge to them. Yeah. And so these are scenes. They're not even full adventures, really. They're more of you come into this location and, like the previous one, you track down this questor who says, I will do this for you if you promise to help a future questor, Minbruges, that asks you for help.
Yeah.
And gives you this thing and points you in the direction, and then you go, and that's where the adventure takes place. This is very similar. It's, you've heard this story, this troubadour may know more about it, and like a lot of the interludes, it is very easy to change the location this takes place. Like this, the example here takes place in Kratos, which is near the Tylon Mountains. Yeah. You could substitute another troubadour, preferably an Obsidian, but any troubadour of the group's acquaintance that might presumably know information about this.
Yeah.
There's plenty of flexibility to have this happen wherever you need it to happen, with a character that would be able to provide the information to the group to point them in the right direction to go and try and track this down.
Yeah.
The interlude is a suggestion. It's a good way to point folks in the right.
It's very flexible, too.
But very flexible, yeah.
Yeah, do with it what you want, essentially.
Yeah. You go, you learn the tale, and you find out where they need to go to track it down, and so they go to track it down.
Yeah, on to the next. So, with an axe in hand is the actual adventure itself. It's got more complicated things involved in that, but we'll get to that in a second or so. As we have given credit to all the writers of the other ones beforehand, this one is credited to Nicole Lindroos Frine. She goes by Nicole Lindroos now. And I asked this question of Josh last week when we did not record, but I'm going to preface this whole thing. She has written for The Adept's Way and somewhat well known in the gaming industry. So I asked Josh, do you know who this is?
I do know Nicole, actually.
Not like you're besties and have each other's phone numbers.
Yeah.
Like that, but
we are well acquainted. I generally try and chat with her for a few minutes, at Gen Con. She is one of the lead folks at Green Ronin Games, which is the outfit that Steve Kenson, to drop another Earthdawn / FASA alumnus name.
Yeah.
He does a lot of work for them now. He worked on Blue Rose. He worked on Mutants and Masterminds, which I think either just launched or is very shortly going to launch a Kickstarter for its newest edition.
Mm-hmm. They both worked on The Expanse.
Yeah. Nicole and Chris Pramis, who's her spouse, are sort of the principals at the head of Green Ronin. And they're wonderful people.
Yeah.
My first encounter with Nicole was in one of the early, like one of the first Gen Cons that I went to, so now like a decade ago. She was on a panel that I attended, and I don't recall now what the panel was about. I think it might have been about like getting started in game writing, or like it was some kind of like RPG writing seminar or whatever. Because I was kind of just getting started with 4th edition and looking for advice and insight and whatnot. And she mentioned, as part of the in answering a question or some point during the panel, mentioned that one of her earliest jobs was working on Earthdawn.
Yes.
And of course I was like, woo! and she's like, oh, somebody's heard of it. And I went up and chatted with her after and she's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm actually working on that, like the new edition of that right now. And she's like, oh yeah. And so, every year I would swing by their booth at Gen Con and say hi to Steve and say hi to her and chat and whatnot.
Yeah.
I've kind of expressed this in other places, but it's weird. It kind of feels weird in some regards. Like, I still think of myself as just this fan, like this sort of super fan, this knowledgeable fan when it comes to Earthdawn. The fact that I am a peer, a contemporary, a peer of Steve Kenson, a name that I have admired for quite a number of years, and Nicole and Chris Pramus and all of the other wonderful folks that I have met going to Gen Con various years and hanging out and getting to know to varying degrees. It's a weird kind of feeling when I think about the fact that there are fans of Earthdawn on the Discord, but like just in general, who kind of look at me and Morgan and some of the other, those of us who are really kind of involved heavily with 4th edition, who kind of look at us the same way that I used to look at
Steve
and Lou and, and being friendly and friends with folks like Rusty Zimmerman and Opti and, stuff like that. And just realizing that the tabletop RPG industry, and I really put scare quotes on that, is niche in a sense. And that like the people who, especially outside of the D&D space, that indie space, like basically anything outside of D&D/Pathfinder, which takes up such a big portion of the market in a sense.
Space,
yeah. Those of us who are not in that space, we don't really. I mean, there are individuals I'm sure that do, but I don't see anybody else as my competition. There's enough space for everybody, and we all, the ones that stick around and the ones that end up with like the good reputation, support each other and help each other out. The opportunities that have come my way and the people that I've gotten to meet as a result of my work, it still feels really like, even after 14 years, I got a memory in my Facebook like last week or so when I posted the results from the original Kickstarter for 4th edition.
For the player's guide,
Yeah, for not just the player's guide, but that was like the original plan, but the original first Earthdawn 4 Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I like posted that obviously when it completed, and it popped up as a memory because it was, 14 years ago or something like that campaign 12 or 13, it was a while ago, and I've been doing this for that long, and the opportunities, and it's a weird feeling if I stop and think about it.
Oh, it's surreal.
Yeah.
It's very surreal. No,
I'm just this guy,
Well, the fact that I had a podcast where we were trying to broaden Earthdawn's reach, not that we did a fantastic job of it, but we were not liking 4th edition, and you emailed the show a couple times, and then now I'm hosting the show with you is also surreal. So,
Josh
decided to talk
like
to me.
Nicole, you have your name in a book now.
I have my name. Well, not only do I have my name in the book that I backed the player's guide because my name is in there, but I have my name in
Questors because you wrote.
I stared right at it and I'm like, that's not the right book, is it? It is.
That's what I was referring to. Not just that you're in there as a backer, but that you are there now as a contributor.
Yes.
However small you may think your contribution was, you have contributed.
Well, my name's going to be in another book coming out here very, very soon. If I'm going to tease that one.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Don't
I'm like, what are you talking about? No, because Dan helped with the copy editing.
On the omnibuses.
On the omnibus editions.
Yes.
Not just the copy editing, but did a lot of the initial cleanup of the documents.
Boy, did I.
Yeah, well, because what we had was we had the EPUBs from the scanned versions, and so there was had to clean up line breaks and spelling weirdnesses and stuff like that.
Luckily enough, luckily enough, here's how I was able to do all of that is I actually had all of the original books, except for the one written in German. I had all the original books on my shelf. So if I had a question about how something should look, I just pulled the book off the shelf and was able to edit it that way. I'm like, let me make it match that. Or, oh, look, they forgot the punctuation in the book too. I'll fix the punctuation now. So anyway.
Yeah. Helped out significantly with all of those.
Happy to do
so,
it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So anyway, enough. Yeah. So I think we've killed like 10 minutes now.
Well, Nicole Lindroos, just so everybody knows her bona fides, wrote part of the Something in the Adept's Way, credited with Something in Ars Magica, wrote Vampire Blood Nativity, I think it was an adventure, contributed to the game Everway, which if you want to go look that one up, by all means do so.
Oh, God, I love Everway. That was the original version of that game was so before its time.
Fair. She also contributed to the Earthdawn Pathfinders Edition, Game Master's Guide, and the Earthdawn Savage Worlds Edition.
Yeah, the reason for that is because material from the Adept's Way
made it into those.
Gotcha, and so so it's not like she contributed something new. Material she had previously worked on ended up in those. So therefore that's why she was credited.
She also did write for Titan's Grave, The Ashes of
Titan's Grave, which was a
Will Wheaton.
Yeah, it was a limited series actual play that Will Wheaton produced and was game master for.
Yeah, and I have that book.
Yep, I have it as well. It's a
fantasy age thing, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a fantasy age hack adaptation. They only ended up doing I think they were originally talking about if it did well enough of doing more than just the one book for it. Yeah. But it's really just kind of a setting / adventure book in a thing.
Exactly, yes.
Hank Green was one of the players in that.
Yes,
campaign.
That Hank Green.
Yes, that Hank Green,
author.
Hank Green of author and brother of John Green and science communicator and
those folks.
Founder of Complexly and Crash Course and all of that amazing stuff.
And all of that got started because she wrote this. And founded Green Ronin in 2000. So she's been at Green Ronin now for 26 years now. So yeah. So good stuff. Anyway.
So yeah, she is one of those who are in the know who she is and know her reputation and such. But it's not a name that would necessarily immediately spring to mind when you're thinking of, she's not a Margaret Weiss, for example. She's not a name that would immediately pop to mind as most folks would recognize who it is.
Yeah, or a Monty Cook.
Yeah, or a Monty Cook. But again, at that point, you're talking about D&D stuff. I mean, Chris worked for Wizards of the Coast on 3rd edition stuff for a bit. Some of his early independent stuff was D20 compatible. That's part of the reason why he founded Green Ronin was basically to be the publishing imprint for his own stuff. Freeport, I think was the name of it, was the city thing that he developed that's now had 3 or 4 different system adaptations.
Nicely done.
Been going on. But they're good folks. I am fond of them.
Fair. And I think she's a Minnesota native. So go Minnesota. So this adventure begins when the party reaches the foothills of the Tylon Mountains, which, by the way, is just west of Kratos. So if you talk to Senog in Kratos, it's an easy little jaunt, geographically speaking.
It's like a week on horseback and 11 or 12 days on foot to where
something like that
they need to get to.
Yeah. So this the party will first encounter the village of Small Stream. It's the very first of Senog's instructions / directions. So if you found this place, then you know where to go. And so that's the whole thing. They need to find this one. Then they're going to come across Cliffstone and then Ridge, but we'll get to those in a minute or so. The party can or should, depends upon what they want to do, stop in each town, maybe resupply, maybe just this is shelter, this is a safe space, whatever. And the Game Master can, if you want to, insert some minor encounters on the way to Small Stream or in between all 3 of the towns listed here. So this is going to happen in 3 different stages. You're going to have 3 different towns in this adventure. But don't get heavy-handed. This is not like a combat slog. This is things should happen along the way that further the story and further what's needed to get the key knowledge at the end. So this is not a running of the gauntlet or trials or obstacles to get through. So in the village of Smallstream, there are right now 6 huts, and there is an incident in the night that wakes the party up. Nightmares will be happening here. Not necessarily a combat nightmare, but more of a horror influence nightmare. So if you don't like the horrors, this is not the adventure for you to run. If you don't like the horrors, it's not the adventure for you to be on. But this is the creeping insidiousness that the horrors are going to start lacing around people in your vicinity of your party, because that's what the horror does at this point. Thoughts?
Yeah, so there's sort of, I'm going to say like 3 stages to this adventure overall.
Fair.
Stage 1 is what you're talking about here right now, sort of what I would consider, which is the journey to the corrupted Liferock.
Yep.
The purpose of this part of the journey, it may seem that out of the 3 villages that you pass by, one of them is having a problem with some ice flyers. At the character's level, they shouldn't be much of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point of these encounters with these villages as you travel to the Liferock is to set things up for part 3 of the adventure, which is the return from the Liferock. And the whole purpose of this part 1 is to introduce you to these communities, is to introduce you to some NPCs, to introduce you to the way that life sort of is normally out in the wilds of Barsave.
Yeah.
And as you get a little bit closer to the Liferock, I think the 3rd village, Ridge, like if there's an Obsidian Man in the group, they're kind of like, we don't want you here because of the history with the corrupted Liferock.
Mm-hmm.
But it's generally like you encounter these people, they are nice, they are helpful, you help them out from a problem. And so you're really like kind of part of the goal. And it's not super heavy handed in this, but the goal ultimately is for the characters to build some degree of relationship, to have some kind of interaction positively with these various places, so that, I mean, I'm basically going to kind of spoil, because I have to address it here as part of this. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get there in greater depth, but so that when they are returning from the events at the corrupted Liferock, having learned the name of the horror at that point, they witness the consequences of them having passed through the area and the workings of the curse that they carry on these communities that they had had positive interactions with. This is, I think, probably out of all of the curse-related stuff that happens in this adventure, like in this collection of adventures.
Yeah, all these 5.
This chapter is the darkest, I feel, and the one that is most likely to upset players.
Fair.
As a result of it, because...
Oh, yeah. There's some trigger warnings.
Yeah, like they are traveling out. There are these positive encounters that they have, these NPCs that they meet, these things that they do, going and being heroic. You know, we are on this way. We are going to be, like, we're getting the next piece of information that we need in order to break the curse. And we're on the way and kind of traveling. We're encountering these people. And while it had kind of been hinted at before... Again, most blatantly with the Tamer encounter from the previous adventure, this one really feels like a knife twist.
Yeah.
The Tamer one is kind of dark, and it's possible to kind of scale that back in some regards. This one just...
This is a gut punch.
Yeah, this is a gut punch, is that you have gone through these places, you go and you deal with the thing, and on your way back... you witness the aftermath of what the horror has done to these places simply because you passed through them.
Agreed. Well stated.
Yeah, and there is nothing really that the player characters can do about this. like I've said through all of these summaries and deep dives that we've been doing, the curse, it's not you're cursed, la-di-da-di-da, you get some minuses on your rolls. No, this is, you are leaving destruction in your wake.
Yeah.
And the only way out is through.
Yes. Well, and not only are you leaving destruction in your wake, it's destruction you can't stop. It's not actually at your behest that you started. You didn't start a fight. It's just the fact that you were there and this destruction happens.
If you look at the overall story that is happening here, and the tragedy in one sense that is being recreated, that cycle, the same kind of cycle that happened with the Seven Spokes centuries ago, is now in a sense being recreated by your group, even if members of your group are not necessarily betraying each other yet. The fact that you have been afflicted by this curse, and ultimately the only way to break it is to strengthen yourselves and thereby strengthen the curse to the point that you learn enough to defeat the curse, to break the curse. The only way to do that is to slay the horror. And the only way to slay the horror is to continue to learn about these
key knowledges,
weapons, to learn about the key knowledges. Now, arguably, you can learn the key knowledges without needing to necessarily increase your rank, your thread rank to the items. There's nothing that actually requires you to weave the threads. It's just simply that the key knowledges are what are going to guide you along the path to break the curse. But also, given how powerful this horror seems to be, I think that you would be remiss as adepts. You're already affected by the curse. The things that happen here in this adventure are going to happen regardless of whether you only have rank 1 woven to the threads or rank 6 or to the blades. And so ultimately, you can't just leave the blades behind because then somebody else will pick them up and continue. You have been unwittingly saddled with this responsibility, and the only way out is through. And I think you would be doing yourselves and your chance of success a disservice if you didn't say, well, we're affected by this anyway, we might as well improve our chances by taking advantage of the magic of these items. Because even though they are cursed, they do give you some pretty decent
oomph
bonuses. Yeah, some pretty decent magical oomph.
Exactly.
But that's the whole purpose of this first act before you arrive at the Liferock is to encounter these people and see the kind of simple, basic community lives that they have, and then get the knife twist of of you going back through afterwards, and the horror, not necessarily like being there taunting you, but the effects of your presence are clearly felt, and that ultimately it is your fault.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of how this is written is what screenwriters tell you to do sometimes for like superhero movies is show, don't tell. So if you just show how the character can do this, if you can show what the superhero can do, instead of telling through exposition what's going on, and this is how Nicole did a fantastic job showing the aftermath without necessarily telling you explicitly. So Act 1, Scene 2, they go to Cliffstone, which is just outside of an old care site, where you can hunt, fish, gather. There's no farmable land outside or around Cliffstone, but if the party is allowed to stay overnight and does indeed stay overnight, the townsfolk will all have nightmares and a lot of restless sleep. And this is where there's the attack of the ice flyers on a fishing trap before nightfall. So if they wanted to throw in the combat encounter just to liven things up a little bit, by all means do so. Keep the dice fresh. Cliffstone is where that is designed to take place. And ice flyers, I've actually never used ice flyers in any of my campaigns. So I've also never fought any ice flyers as a player. Just one of those things of hasn't happened. Just
I like them.
Little aside. All kinds of cool. Act 1, Scene 3 is where they go to Ridge, as Josh said, and they are greeted in one of two ways, depending upon if there's an obsidian in your party or not. And if there's not an obsidian in your party, you are welcome with open arms. If there's an obsidian in your party, you are kind of told to keep moving. Not welcome to stay here. They may or may not explain, up to the game master, up to the players, how inquisitive they want to be. But the Liferock is 3 days walk from Ridge. Now, since you are going into the Tylon Mountains, you are eventually going up in altitude among all three of these places. Don't fail to reference episode 177 of this here podcast for mountainous travel, because there are other pitfalls and that the game master may want to include in that. Just to let you know. So in Ridge, the obsidian character can swear a blood oath that they will stay peaceful toward the townsfolk, and they will accept that. So that's a little addendum to the introduction to Ridge. The townsfolk will make offers for the party to carry and deliver items to far-flung family members, because they want to stay here, but they know that they have family in other parts of Barsave, and so they're asking you to be couriers for them, turning the characters basically into like delivery people. So that's also a possibility. A nice little wrinkle. I've never encountered that before in any adventure. I think this is kind of a cool thing to throw in there, as something neat. Here's this bauble. Here's this trinket. Here's a letter, whatever. If you come across, my relative lives in so-and-so X town. Next time you're there, just drop this off. So neat little way to tie things into the community. Thoughts on, this is all of Act 1.
Yeah. I don't have any additional thoughts beyond what I had kind of gone through before.
Fair enough. You are the gooey Oreo cookie filling. So, Act 2, the Liferock, offers no signs or carvings or words of any kind regarding the horror's name. So, just you're at SOL there. A search of the area leads the party to discover Asmercius in a crevasse. It's a little hard to get to. It's a rift in the rock, and there's a 30-foot drop into the part where Asmercius, I keep wanting to say Asmodeus, Asmercius has been for a while. So this will take us some collective strength tests in this spot, rescuing Asmercius, getting him up out of that crevasse. Testing, by the way, the party's patience, because he's going to sit there and try and heal for like 5 days. Maybe there's a game master could speed it up. Maybe you want to slow it down, knock yourself out. But basically look around and investigate the area. So this is one of those, what do the characters do with this kind of a downtime? And you can find a scroll written by the Seven Spokes in that crevasse, along with Asmercius. Act 2.
Yeah, Asmercius is the only surviving member of the Brotherhood of this particular Liferock.
Well, let's put surviving in quotes.
Well, he's still alive. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
He is in bad shape, but he has been down there trapped in that crevasse since the Seven Spokes were there centuries ago.
Yes.
The Seven Spokes had come to this location for the same reason that the player characters were. They had heard the tale and were trying to track down the identity of the horror as well, so that they could try and put a stop to it. So you are, again, following in the path. You are repeating the cycle, in a sense, of what had gone before. Mm-hmm. Asmercius is in the condition that he's in because, as is the case for obsidian, if they are trapped underground, then they go into hibernation. Mm-hmm. So that's the situation, is that he's down there. He has been trapped and has been in hibernation since the Seven Spokes left him down there all those years ago. Yeah. And it takes time for him to come out of that. And he is also in bad shape because while this is where the Liferock was, this Liferock is effectively dead.
Yes.
The player characters don't have much to do except to wait for him to come around, which will take some time. They can discover that letter, the little thing left by the Seven Spokes. But ultimately, when Asmercius comes around, he's the one that is able to tell them the name of the horror, and thereby granting them the rank 7 key knowledge for the blades.
Yes. So they got what they came for. Yay.
This actually, while the player characters had encountered tales of the Seven Spokes previously, in the Hold of Courage, there was a place where the Seven Spokes would have been memorialized,
Yes.
but they weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
They had the encounter with their fallen member, their horror corrupted member,
Yes.
the 8th member that they had tried to cut out of the group.
Mm-hmm.
But this letter that they meet is really like the first real, this feels like the first real direct connection, the first real encounter, to put scare quotes around that, with the Seven Spokes themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They have sort of been aware of the group before now, but this is the first time where we have a scroll, we have a letter, a message that was written by the very heroes in whose footsteps we are following to try and complete the task that they were unable to complete.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is a significant moment.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of the connection there. This really feels like the first time that there's a tangible connection with these heroes from centuries before.
Yeah, this is a momentous occasion, or at least a momentous event that they're found at this point. Because I can't say as soon as, but shortly thereafter, when as Mercius wakes up, maybe gives him the name, things happen, and then time to battle a half dozen obsidian horror constructs. Because the horror has learned, and of course is trying to stop you, because it would like to keep corrupting things adjacent to you. And so since you're marked,
it knows that if the player characters manage to learn its name, there is a chance that they might be able to defeat it.
Yeah.
Because the Seven Spokes were not able to complete the job. They did go and try, but they weren't able to complete it. The horror knows that if it manages to keep its name secret, then the player characters won't be able to defeat it.
Yeah. And because the horror has marked them, it can kind of, read their thoughts a little bit. So it knows.
Well, it can keep track of what's going on. It knows where they are.
Yep.
And of course, because it marked and corrupted and destroyed this Liferock, there are some of its constructs that it sort of reawakens in the vicinity to go and try and put a stop to the player characters.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I don't think that the stats I don't know how it balances from a first edition standpoint,
Fair.
But looking at the numbers as they stand right now, I don't think a group that the 7 Obsidian constructs here would present much of a threat to a group of 7th circle. Yeah, 6th, 7th, 8th circle adepts.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be something that you would probably want to look at and rebalance, maybe reskin a construct from 4th edition that would be a little bit more in line. They do have karma. They've got step 8 karma, which is obviously karma for horror constructs. If they have it, they can spend it on any of the tests that they make.
Yeah.
They can certainly kind of turn the tide with that. They're fast, but that's also looking at them as first edition stat numbers. Like their full movement is 300 yards, which is very, very fast, even for first edition, especially considering they're Obsidian. But they are very insectile.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of their appearance. They're likened to Inve in terms of how they attack. They do have paralytic venom.
Yeah.
Between the venom and their other stuff, there's certainly some danger there. I just don't think the numbers as presented in first edition stat-wise would even have been much of a problem for first edition characters.
Fair.
So that would be something that you would want to double check and maybe balance
probably,
appropriately.
An Inve spirit took over an Obsidian corpse type thing. Something like that.
They aren't actually, because Inve are not horrors or horror constructs. No. But it's a similar kind of concept in that regard.
I'm just saying from like a stat concept.
Yeah. The constructs actually attack before the player characters can get the answer from Asmercius, which adds a wrinkle to the fight that they need to protect Asmercius, because killing the player characters is kind of a bonus, but killing Asmercius is actually the primary goal, because if Asmercius dies, then the player characters can't get the information.
Yes.
And the horror is fine with the currently cursed player characters continuing to traipse around Barsave, spreading its influence and causing problems.
Yes.
So what you're looking at in this situation is not so much of an actual threat to the player characters, so much as a threat to Asmercius that they need to defeat these things in order to protect the Obsidian, in order to get the information that they need. So that's actually a little bit of a interesting take on, or a different approach to a combat encounter.
Yes.
Where the objective is not simply, oh, these things are trying to attack us and kill us. It's these things are trying to attack and kill this helpless individual that we need to keep alive in order to get the information that we came here for.
Yeah. So,
especially when you get into higher circle combats, this is something that gets talked about on the Discord, but also just in general with higher circle Earthdawn play. One, combat encounters tend to start taking a long time because of all the dice rolls and options and everything that's involved in them, but also because of the power levels that player character adepts can get into, particularly when you get into Master and Warden tier play, what kind of encounters, what kind of enemies can you throw at them to
make it a challenge?
You can do that by changing up the objectives. This is not simply a knockdown smash up between two rival forces. Yeah. This is you actually need to keep this person alive. And so I think it would behoove the game master in this situation to remember what the horror's objective is and to use the constructs in the combat to try and achieve that objective rather than, okay, I'm going to have one construct going against each member of the party.
So it's evenly matched? No.
Yeah, so it's like one-on-one with the warrior might need to go and help intercept the one that's attacking the wizard and stuff like that. Yeah. But what's actually going to be going on here is the constructs are trying to kill Asmercius, the only individual that has the information the player characters need.
Yes. So I like
keeping that in mind and running the encounter that way. I think is the way that you would want to approach it.
Yes. So I like how Act 1 planted the seeds of everything. I like how Act 2 is nicely complex as far as what needs to be done and the tests need to make to rescue Asmercius, the patience required to wait for Asmercius, and then, of course, the combat, which has, as you said, a different objective entirely. And that wrinkle of this happens before he can get the words out. So on to Act 3. Back through the mountains. And you get to revisit your towns about 10 days later because you had to wait 5 for Asmercius, and then it's a 3-day trek back to Ridge at least. The party is received with apathy and sullenness. And if not driving off the party entirely, if there's an Obsidian in your party. So things happen in Ridge. When they finally get to Cliffstone, this is mostly abandoned, with one inhabitant left, with a whole bunch of stab wounds, and a whole bunch of tracks out of town by every other inhabitant that was there. So no survivors left alive, essentially, because the one with the stab wounds, gonna die, if not already dead, or freshly dead. By the time they get back to Small Stream, this has some fresh graves dug, burned huts, and fear permeates anybody left in this village, and very few survivors as well, if any. Game Master's choice, knock yourself out. There's a trigger warning that I'm not going to mention because of who they met at the Act 1 and what happened in Act 3, just so you know.
Yeah. Like I said back at the beginning, it's dark.
Very dark.
Essentially what has happened in Cliffstone and Small Stream in particular is that the horror has been able to influence people to betray each other. Basically, it's a very similar thing to what happened to the Tamers in the Liaz jungle.
Yes.
Is that the horror's influence was able to corrupt and influence people to betray and attack the very people that they love and care for. It's awful.
Yeah.
So there's 2 things that go on here. One, like I was saying earlier, is the darkness and the witnessing the consequences of their presence in society broadly. This is a case where we are really getting into the horror genre themes of this campaign, where the player characters are responsible indirectly for what has befallen these places.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a gut punch, a knife twist, a source of angst and personal darkness and guilt that can come about as a result of all this, which I'm sure Betrayer slurps up with relish.
Glee.
But also, I would feel that it would also be something that I hope would galvanize the player characters and indicate to them the importance of putting an end to this, which fortunately is what the next... I feel very strongly that what you are probably looking at here is you get this adventure and the next one very close together.
Yeah.
I don't think that the player characters, having learned this information, would probably want to go and figure out what they need to do next in order to put a stop to this.
Yeah.
Now we have a name.
Let's not dawdle.
Yeah, let's not dawdle. Let's go and deal with it. We've got to do everything we can to try and prevent any more innocents from coming to harm as a result of what we've been up to.
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly all right for there to be time passing in those earlier adventures. But I think from the previous one with the Liage Jungle and the Dark Fetch, where you had that encounter with the Tamers, I think from that one to the concluding adventure, the one that we'll talk about next time we visit this campaign.
Yeah. From A Traitor's Fate.
Yeah, will be a lot more likely to happen in a shorter time frame, but especially going from this one to the next one.
Yeah. I think, Pure Liquids is the next one.
Yeah. This is dark. I think this is the adventure, actually, that I may have been in the middle of when my long-term campaign that I had the Blades in wrapped up. I don't think we had finished this adventure. I think this was the adventure that we were actually in the middle of when the game wrapped up.
Well, that answers my next
fell
question.
apart.
I was going to say, how far did you get? Since we're four episodes into the 5-episode arc, I was going to ask how far you'd made it in, if any of these rang a bell.
Yeah, I don't remember whether we had gotten to the Liferock itself or not, but I know we had at least encountered, from what I can recall at this point, I think we had encountered the first village.
Yeah.
I was going to see if I had the campaign journal from that campaign handy here.
Fair.
Because I could go and look at the tail end, like the last entries from that, and see where exactly things were.
We can tease that for next time.
I know we didn't get to the last adventure, and I feel like we didn't complete this one, and I think this was the one that, like, things just finally scheduling in life and whatnot, after, like, 3 years of playing, I think it finally just kind of fell apart.
People couldn't commit. Yeah, that happens. Everybody has that gaming group where you're like, well, won't see those folks again for a while, if ever. So, we've covered a lot of ground on this one. We didn't give off the triggers, but we did mention that they are there for those who are interested in running this one. Do have those lines and veils handy. This is, maybe you want to take something out at the end of this one, just to let everybody know. But it like Josh said, it's dark. It's like The Last of Us type dark.
Like I had said when I was talking, answering one of the emails that we had in a recent episode.
Yes.
And I think I talked about this a little bit with regards to the previous adventure in this campaign as well. I can recognize the desire to scale back on some aspects of the horror and the darkness in this. I think that you need to be careful how much you do that. Again, like, I recognize there are things in here that absolutely could be line crossing for people.
Yes.
And I don't have a problem with maybe that particular detail being changed to suit that. But I think it is important that you don't downplay the danger that this horror poses. This is a horror that is
insidious.
Well, insidious, but also to some extent responsible for the collapse of a kingdom.
Yeah.
Maybe not entirely directly, but because of the corruption and failure of the Seven Spokes,
yes,
they were not present to defend Carafad and sort of like whatever, all that was going on sort of at that tail end, Carafad sort of collapsed as a result of it. The degree of how much direct influence the horror had on that is up to you. But I think downplaying the danger and the consequences of the player characters going through the village, you can maybe draw a curtain across it. But I think it's important, if you're going to be honest to the story being told here, if you're going to be honest to the themes that it's dealing with, I don't think you should soft sell it.
No. This one and the next one are the ones where you need to actually lean into.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it. I don't think that the next one is quite as bad.
No, but it's the ultimate. Need to lean into is the evil that the horror can do, especially since you are confronting it directly to destroy it.
And I like the final act of this, the tail end of this, those final encounters in the villages that you had passed through on the way up, on the way back. Like I said, it's going to be a gut punch. It's going to be dark. It's going to hurt. It's going to inflict guilt and all sorts of negative stuff on the player characters. I think that's intentional. I think it's by design. I think it's important for the themes of the campaign. And like I said, in response to that email question, this may not be a campaign that is suitable for everyone.
Agreed.
I think it's a really strong campaign, especially for Earthdawn, but it is also not something I think may be suited for everyone. But it should also galvanize the group so that basically they want to go straight from this to, we have a name now, let's find out where it is so we can go and stab it to death.
Yes. Go finish it once and for all.
Yeah, which is a major undertaking and a dangerous operation, but the final chapter finally allows the player characters to take the fight to the horror and, knock on wood, put an end to the curse once and for all.
Agreed. Well done, Nicole. Chef's kiss. And I do mean chef's kiss as in this was very well executed on paper.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Again, all of the adventures in this collection, there is a lot that is packed into not much space.
Yeah.
Let's see, it's pages 69 to 80. It's not even 20 pages.
Yeah, it's like 15 or 16.
Yeah, and that's including all of the stat blocks for the various characters and Asmercius.
And the artwork.
And the artwork. There's like 5 pages of those are the loose ends, which are the NPC stat blocks and stuff at the end. So like there is a lot of stuff in this. There's not necessarily a lot of flowery detail that's added onto it, but there is a lot of material in here that makes for a very meaty, very dark, very thematic adventure.
Yeah.
All of these adventures pack a lot of good stuff into a relatively small space.
Yeah.
The writers know the assignment and they achieve it.
Well done, Lou, for
I was going to say which is a testament not just to the writers, but to the development and editorial hand to make sure that the stuff that needs to be in there is in there. Yeah.
Nothing was missed. You're not lacking for anything, and there's a whole lot to work with. So a whole lot of meat on the bone of this adventure here. So until next time, folks, go support Green Ronin Publishing for your legend.
Good night, everybody.